Today on the Kristen SuperCrip Milefchik Ringside Report Show, I'll be interviewing award-winning indie horror filmmaker Richard Terrasi. We're going to talk about the inspiration behind Richard's dark imagination and just what being an indie filmmaker and director is all about. So if you're into indie films or love a good horror flick, grab yourself a bag of popcorn and enjoy the show. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Kristen SuperCrip Milefchik Ringside Report Show. I'm joined here today by indie horror filmmaker, director, and writer, as well as special makeup effects creator, Richard Terrasi. Welcome, Richard, and thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So, Richard, can you begin by telling my viewers about where you're from, your childhood, and your earliest inspirations for making film?
Well, I grew up in the Bronx, in the northeast section of the Bronx, a neighborhood called Allerton Avenue. And I grew up during the times of Chiller Theater on WPIX Channel 11. And monster movies was something I looked forward to right after school. Back in those days, we had TV sets, tube TV sets. There was no internet, the only cable channel around at the time was WHT and HBO. I think Cinemax, but I'm not positive about that. But TV was a big deal for monster movies. They always had creature features. They had Chiller Theater. They had ABC, I believe, had Haunted Hollywood at midnights, I believe on Sunday nights. Those were the days where TV was actually good, and you couldn't wait to get home and watch something that interested me, like horror movies. I mean, horror didn't come into play until later on. It was mostly monster movies. Godzilla. Godzilla was my favorite hero.
Okay.
And on the weekends, they always used to show tons of Godzilla movies, especially one they used to repeat all the time was Godzilla versus the Thing, which is also originally AKA known as Godzilla versus Mothra, which came out in 1964. And then 1965's Godzilla versus Monster Zero, which was actually, I believe, called, the Japanese title is Attack of the Astro Monster, which had King Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, and Rhode. But sorry about that. But those were a lot, monster movies were mainly my inspiration. It wasn't until a few years later when VHS became a popular household item, and we got, my brother got a membership at a video house, and we rented our first movie, which was An American Werewolf in London.
Okay. Yep, I remember it.
Yep, and actually, I'm sorry. I mean, that was the first movie we rented, but the first time I saw An American Werewolf in London was in 1981. When it first aired on HBO.
Okay.
And I'll never forget that night because it scared the pants off of me. When I saw that, first when I saw the characters David and Jack being attacked by the werewolf, it was so realistic, I was traumatized. But what traumatized me even more, which I had sleepless nights, was the transformation. Back then, that was by far the most sophisticated special effects ever achieved. No one has ever seen or come close to a transformation or such sophistication in special effects. The Howling did it, but Rick Baker's special effects proved something amazing back then. So so horror for me all started when VHS came into play, and my brother started renting all these taboo horror films, that people were just curious to get their hands on and see what it was all about. And that's how it all started for me. And being young at the time, I was like 8 years old, watching these horror movies with my brother and his friends. gave me the chills. It gave me sleepless nights. But there was something about them that I wanted to see more. And it wasn't just the horror; it was the effects and the magic of it that lured me into it. I wanted to know how they did it, and that's why I was so curious. And after watching a whole bunch of them, I said to myself, "That's something I want to do." And then later on, I started collecting a popular magazine at the time, which I'm sure a lot of people know, Fangoria magazine. And that's what got me into special makeup effects. It showed me how they did it. And they talked about, and they interviewed artists. And there wasn't a magazine, other than Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was Forey Ackerman. But Fangoria had gave you that bird's eye view of how a lot of this magic was done. But it wasn't until I would say around when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, when I first saw Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. Okay. Which by then made me when I found out there were a bunch of college dropouts that took on this ambitious adventure to make an indie film with money from investors that were doctors, lawyers, and other, family members, that anyone can make a movie. And that's what made me want to become a filmmaker. Nice. And it all started with Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. Because it's such a raw and gritty film. Even though I love Evil Dead 2, but the original Evil Dead shows the heart and passion and the rawness that they put into that picture. Yeah. And it still holds to this day.
I really the first time I saw The Evil Dead was a year ago. My fiance found out that I had not seen it and was like, you have to see this,
Oh, it's a classic. It's a classic.
Yeah, my mom brought me up on American movie classics, and I watched a lot of Hitchcock and a lot of the really old Gaslight and those types of old horror movies growing up. But it seems like horror is one of those genres where people either love it or they hate it. There's not a whole lot of in between.
Yeah.
And having the curious mind that I do, I always I'm interested in horror because I always want an explanation for why people, especially in the slasher, psychological type of horror movies, want an explanation for why people turn out the way they do. And I think that's what excites me about it, is exploring that. And
it's not even that. It's like a roller coaster ride. People want to experience a really good roller coaster ride. So a good horror movie is a safe and fun way to get scared and go through a roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. I mean, sorry about that. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, definitely. And next question here, because you actually answered my next question in your previous answer, so I'm skipping ahead. So, what was your first film, and what were the lessons you learned from that experience of making your first film?
Okay, well, I learned a lot from my first feature. Okay, in 1998, I started an adventure. I wrote and directed my first feature film, which was a comedy. Not a horror, believe it or not. It was a comedy. Okay. And it was in the vein, it was like a raunchy comedy in the vein of Something About Mary meets Porky's. Okay. Bob Clark's Porky's. And I learned a lot from it because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I went to dual camera in the city. I rented a camera for 4 straight weekends. Okay. And got a bunch of friends to get, to play these characters that I wrote about. And we would shoot every weekend. religiously. And but the problem is I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was very inexperienced. I mean, I kind of followed the Robert Rodriguez way. You know, if you have a good script, a good story, do it yourself. Just film it. But thing is that I didn't have enough know-hows and experience on how to have proper funding.
Right.
And know how much to spend, which I maxed out a lot of my credit cards, and I overspent, and unfortunately, I finished the film, but I didn't have enough funding to edit, to process the film and then edit it. So that film has never seen the light of day.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but after that, I started making a bunch of shorts, and I learned a lot from that, and how to do things the more proper way, on how not to go over budget, how not to overspend, where to put the money in the right places, and how to utilize places for nothing, instead of spending tons of money, which is guerrilla filmmaking. You steal locations without getting permits. You go on trains, transit. You use the buses, the trains, and you just go for it, and you shoot without any permits, and you make it quick, and you go for the getaway, and before any authorities come and say, hey, what's going on here? But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot, and then I consider Am I Evil my first feature, because that's my first completed feature film, and I started filming that after my separation. I was married, and after my separation, I started filming Am I Evil in 2005, and wrapped it up in 2006, and had a premiere screening in 2007 at the Two Booths Pioneer Theater in New York City, which is no longer there, unfortunately. Lots of indie films screen there. But it had, its fair little tiny bit of success. I won Best Director at the Rhode Island International Film Festival for it.
Yeah.
I got some publicity for it, some write-ups for it. It's available on Amazon. I'm working on a 4K restoration of it, with features, behind-the-scenes stuff that's going to be attached to it sometime in the near future. But yeah, that was basically, I consider, my first feature film, is Am I Evil, which is pretty much, I wanted to write something that had to do with what goes on. And I mean, we've seen this many times. It's been done over and over religiously, but I just wanted to make a movie because I was always intrigued on what triggered serial killers to do what they did, or what they do, or why they're into it. It's more like a sexual drive for them, for most killers. I wanted to get in their heads, so that's why I made the main character all about the serial killer and not just about the victims. The victims are there, but I wanted to experience everything that's going on through his mind, through his eyes, which I wrote the script in 1995, way before American Psycho. I mean, American Psycho was a novel. I didn't even read the novel back then, but this was way before the film came out, and I believe it was in 98 or 99. And I really wanted to make something that had to do with what goes on in the mind of the killer and why he does what he does. Sorry. And I didn't have the proper know-hows of how to do this film until around 2005, when I had more experience on how to go about this film, and I finally filmed it.
And I was going to, I'm going to jump ahead to my question about Am I Evil, since you just spoke about it. So I didn't get to watch this one because I didn't have time to find it on DVD before our interview. I watched a couple of the other ones.
I'll when I get my hands on it, I'll definitely send it to you. I apologize. Yeah. It's just I didn't have a link to it or anything like that, but I will send it to you.
Right, but I did get to watch the trailer, and I did read a lot of the reviews about it. I read, a lot of what people had to say about it, And I understand that it's a man who begins killing, and it's from the perspective of the killer. Is there a message that you were trying to get across with that?
Yes, the message is right in the beginning, that monsters are real. We are monsters.
Yeah.
That monsters are out there, and they're inside us.
Okay. Okay. And relating to that type of story, I did get to see one of your short films that you sent me that was part of the Monster Match series.
Yeah,
Hallowed.
Feature.
Right. And it was disturbing because the guy who ends up being the killer seems so normal up until moments before he murders the girl. But what I loved about this one was how the girl gets payback without giving it away. I don't want to say exactly what happened. But for me, I think sometimes film allows people to kind of live out their vengeful fantasies,
Right.
the characters. And although it's in a really twisted way, that's what that film did for me. Is that what you were going for, or is
Yep, yep. I wanted to have that character that you're talking about, the Andrew Lakewood character, which I based off the serial killer from Am I Evil, because the serial killer to Am I Evil is Andrew Lakewood.
Okay.
So it's almost like a sequel in a different world, if you kind of get it. But yeah, he gets what he deserves. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He messed with the wrong person.
Yeah, yeah. And then I wanted to go back and ask you about, let's see here. Okay, so I watched Darkside of the Moon, which is the movie you won the Silver Award for at the 2018 Chautauqua International Film Festival.
Yes. Yeah, it was the Silver Award, which was second place for Best Sci-Fi.
Great. And this movie mixed a bit of American politics into that sci-fi horror plot. And kind of, to me, it seemed to imply that both Democrats and Republicans can't be trusted.
Well, it's not even just. I think government itself cannot be trusted, nor can the media. Today we live in a world where we can't trust nobody, nothing.
Right, right.
You have to follow your gut instinct.
Is that movie a representation of your actual feelings about politics, and how does it reflect on your feelings of modern day politics?
Yes, I feel that we live in a world right now where I can't even distinguish if I'm living in reality. There's so, especially 2020 is a perfect example. We're living in a Twilight Zone time. I mean, in my entire life, nor has the entire life of many other generations have experienced what we're experiencing in this year of 2020. There's just too many strange things. We're living in strange times.
Yeah.
Big time.
It feels like
and we're almost living in a movie, a sci-fi, strange Twilight Zone episode. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how long this is going to last, but it looks like things are getting stranger and stranger. But yeah, so Darkside of the Moon is pretty much my view of how the world is right now, is that you can't trust anything that's going on in the world. You can't trust government. You can't trust anything. You have to fend for yourself to find the truth.
Right.
And even trying to find the truth can, get you hurt, because the truth does not want to be revealed. Mm-hmm. Because there are like dark cabals out there, right. Secretive things that are happening that we're not supposed to know. I'm back.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed how that movie.
Sorry about that.
That movie kind of combined the alien sci-fi stuff your horror stuff, the bathtub scene, the gore.
Yeah.
That was a fun gore scene.
Well, that's my little homage to my love for horror.
Right. And I enjoyed the plot a lot. And speaking of the gory stuff, I grew up in a very sheltered home. My mom would not let me watch like R-rated movies growing up and stuff like that. So I found that compared to the average person in the modern day, I'm more like sensitive to violence and gore in movies and TV. And my daughter, I have a daughter that's turning 18 in a couple months, and she is the complete opposite. She's completely desensitized because, you know, she's grown up in a world where we have all of this readily accessible, you know, on the
Right.
internet and everything like that. And
and the fact that TV now are showing stuff that was considered rated R or unrated in theaters many years ago, now it's just young kids are like, you know, it's nothing to them.
Yeah, and I just wondered, being a horror movie maker, what are your thoughts about violence and gore in movies and the impact that it has on our minds the more we're exposed to it? Do you have any
Well,
thoughts
for me,
about that?
it's more of a thrill ride because I know it's all about special effects. To me, it's always about, oh, how do they pull that off? That is so cool. You know, it's not about like I have this warped mind that I love seeing people getting decapitated or you know, dismembered or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's more about I look at it as an art form because it takes a lot of art to create that stuff. And yes, it is brutal and disturbing to have scenes like that in a film. But when you're making a horror film, it becomes a necessity for that type of story because you're seeking to scare the audience and also disturb them. And sometimes you want to push the envelope to get to make a film controversial, because when you make a film controversial, it stirs attention to get people on it. You know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You know, some horror films are just honestly just awful, and you know, they just do stuff for the sake of just for the gore and just to do stuff. See, I feel that we're living in times where a lot of films and horror movies are lacking substance. You know, that's fine. You have all these CGI effects. I'm not a big fan of CGI because it looks like I'd rather watch a Japanese anime if I'm going to watch a film like The Avengers with full of the CGI. I love practical effects because it's believable, because it's there. It's right in front of you. It's happening. And you can interact with it. But I think we're living in a time where, you know, it's just, you know, special effects is needed. People rely more on special effects than the story. And I think we need to bring back a story with substance and work around special effects around that. You know, there's just too much films out today that just rely on special effects and there's no story or real plot or substance. And that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you know, and I've been in debates with people about, because I do love horror movies. I love, you know, kind of freaking myself out a little bit and the adrenaline rush that it brings and everything. But I've been in debates with people about it that just don't get it and are kind of like, well, you know, it's so morbid. We have enough horrible things in real life. Why do we need to watch this stuff? And I don't think, for me, what I've always said, I don't feel like the reason that people enjoy horror movies is because they're like watching people getting mutilated or anything like that, but it's the evil that keeps you want to see the payback. you want to see the person get caught. And the more evil the person is, I mean, petty theft isn't going to get you all excited about getting that person caught, you know? It's like
Right.
the more atrocious what their actions are, the more you're invested in seeing how it plays out and making sure this person, you know, that there's justice. That's, in my mind, what is attractive about
Well, except for Jason from Friday the 13th or Freddy Krueger, where the people cheer on Jason the killer or Freddy Krueger, because it's not about because people want to see other people get killed by these maniacs,
right.
but because they know it's over the top, and you know, and it's all about the count. How many is Jason going to kill in this movie, or how many is Freddy Krueger going to kill in this movie, and in what inventive ways? You know, you always want to ante up on the kill from the previous kill. So that's what gets people all you know, psyched up to see these type of movies. When, you know, like you're saying, sometimes you want to. Oops, sorry. Sometimes you want to see, yes, the killer get theirs, but films like Friday the 13th or let's say Michael Myers, Halloween, or Freddy Krueger, people just want to see what's going to be the next kill.
That's true.
They could care less about the character.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's why they're called slasher films.
What would you say the biggest pros and the biggest cons of being independent in the film industry are?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah. What are the biggest pros and the biggest cons to being independent in the film industry?
Well, the biggest pros is that you have creative control. You do whatever you want.
Right.
The cons is not having money. That's always the issue, not having money. And sometimes you have to scrap a lot of ideas that would have turned the film even better, but you have to scrap certain things to work around your budget.
Right.
Yeah. So those are the pros and cons: having creative control, doing whatever you want, shooting wherever you could get your hands on, casting, you know, actors through backstage and getting the type of people that you think are suitable for the role of the characters. But the biggest problem is money, you know, and unfortunately nowadays, see, I feel that had I made Am I Evil in the 80s or even in the 90s, that definitely would have gotten a broader, some sort of broader distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it would have been theatrical or direct to video, but it definitely would have got a broader, it would have gotten a pretty decent distribution back in those days. Back in those days, indie films was a big thing, because indie films were the thing back then. Now, being that you have Netflix and streaming video, and you have all these video cameras, anybody can be a filmmaker. So a lot of these distribution companies and people, companies that are looking to put out movies, they really blow off a lot of opportunities of talented filmmakers who have the talent and have the voice to put out there, but they're not being looked at because of this. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to get your voice out there and your film and your ideas and your talent, your creativeness. So we're living in hard times with for indie films. It's really hard.
Right.
You know, especially, see, I still shoot on film. So that alone costs me more money. I like video because, yeah, video, you can shoot a lot more for less and get 10,000 takes, but you don't get the look of film. You don't get that dreamlike, surreal look, the colors, the contrast, you lose it. It looks flat. I mean, video has come close to looking like film, but it still comes off flat, in my opinion.
Okay, all right. Another question I had, I noticed in the Monster Mash trailer it looked like one of the films that there was a real quick clip, and it looked like there was a character that was in a wheelchair. Am I correct about that?
Rocking chair.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yes, there is a character in the wheelchair. You're talking about the man with the long hair and the glasses.
I think so. It was so quick. It was
Yeah.
like a flash in the trailer.
Yeah, that's
I only got to see the one short film.
yeah, that's a character in the third story called Homebound Horror.
Okay. Now my question for you is, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but don't feel I'm not going to pressure you too much. But is the character played by somebody who really uses a wheelchair?
No.
Okay. So this is my challenge for you on the upcoming big thing in the disability world.
Yeah, give me one sec. Okay.
Disability world. I'm in a wheelchair, and you can go back and in my show, I interviewed a comedian that has cerebral palsy named Maysoon Zayed, and her big, fight has been that she also plays a character in General Hospital, but she's a stand-up comedian for the most part.
Right.
But a big thing in the disability world is that people like to cast disabled characters for the diversity factor, but they don't often hire disabled actors to play the disabled characters. And so being an independent filmmaker, I would say you have an opportunity to help somebody that's a disabled actor or actress get out there in a future movie. That's my challenge to you personally, because there's only 2% of characters or roles in cinema and movies and TV shows are disabled, which is we're actually 26% of the population in America. Right. And out of that 2% of roles, only a fraction, very small fraction of that, are actually played by disabled actors and actresses. So that's just kind of something we're trying to get changed.
I have one thing to say. When I first wrote the script, that character was not disabled. It was later put into the story that he would be in a wheelchair by the producers.
Oh, all right. So see,
so when I first wrote the script, he was not handicapped.
Okay, and that's what I'm talking about, though, is that sometimes I think that people that are making films and everything are trying to do the right thing. Their intentions are, we need to represent more people with disabilities, but then they create these characters to represent them. But by not using actual disabled people to play them, you kind of it feels like a mocking thing for some people with disabilities.
Well, so, I don't think it's a mocking thing. I totally respect, people that are handicapped, and yes, they should be in more roles in films, but also for actors, a person who can portray a handicapped person realistically and not to mock them. I mean, that's a form, that's acting, it's art. And a person who can pull off the believability of someone who is handicapped, that's the art of acting.
Yeah, I hear that, but I also, and I won't take up too much time on this debate or whatever, but from the perspective of people that actually have the disabilities, right. It doesn't look, it's kind of like somebody that's Caucasian playing somebody that's, I don't know, Indian or Black or, a different race than they are. You can't really play it. You can't really act it because it's not authentic,
Right.
So, but, that's just something that I wanted to throw in there, just because there's a lot of people that are disabled that aren't able to get parts because people underestimate their ability to act because of their having a disability. So like in the future, I would just say keep your eye out for that, you know. For
No, absolutely. I would never rule out anyone. I
yeah,
mean, you know, it does, whether, you know, race or people that are handicapped or whatnot, you know, I don't rule anyone out. Everybody has a talent and can do anything,
I-
regardless if they're handicapped or whatever. I mean, you know, people are, you know, it doesn't matter. You can be that talent and pursue it, even whether you're in a wheelchair or in crutches or whatever, or have a different type of disability. It doesn't prevent a person to be talented and go forth with, let's say, being a painter or an actor or a singer. For example, like Andrea Bocelli, who is blind, but he's an amazing singer, you know.
right, right. So who is your favorite actor or actress?
That's a good question. You put me on the spot there. One of my favorite actors. Hmm. Well, I'm a big fan of. Oh, sorry.
Your visual.
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Sorry about that. I'm a big fan of old films. I mean, we still have some pretty damn good actors today, but I just feel like I don't know. Hollywood has gone a different route nowadays, where you don't get really good Academy Award-winning acting like uh, a decade ago or beyond that. Everything seems to be about, you know, people in pajamas and capes and being superheroes and getting these A-type actors to play to fill them in. But I like Tom Hardy. He's a very good actor.
All right.
Um, he's one of them. You know, I like. You know what? My mind is blank right now. I would have to like think about it more. But yeah, Tom Hardy's up there.
Okay.
I mean, I have a whole list. It's just right now my mind is frozen.
That's okay. That's okay. How about special effects gore scenes? Which was the most fun to create? Out of all your movies, all the gore special effects scenes you've created, which one was your favorite?
I would say for the Monster Mash, because it was probably my most ambitious.
Okay. Okay.
I've for the Monster Mash. I mean, I don't want to reveal too much, but in each story, I mean, the Monster Mash is basically titled for a reason. It's because it's got monsters.
Right.
So each story has a unique and different monster. So yeah, it was creating different monsters and achieving stuff that I've never done before. Uh, and having the help of another special effects artist who's been a tremendous help for me, and her name is Megan Reed, and I'm giving a shout out to her, because without her, I probably wouldn't even have a lot of stuff that I have done now that's wrapped up on this film.
Would probably love to meet you because and your friend Megan, because she's very into creating the special effects makeup. She's just like
Yes.
a side hobby that she's gotten really into. And last Halloween, not this one because we didn't really, you know, get dressed up this year because of COVID and everything like that.
Yeah.
But last Halloween she was a mermaid, but she like made a big gash, you know, in her chest with a fish hook going through it.
Oh, okay.
So she was like a sea life abused mermaid.
That's original and unique.
So creative. Yeah, I was very impressed.
I like that.
That's
Yeah.
making stuff like that. So I do see the appeal to like just, you know, creating these so realistic representations. Like, it's more the how do you do that that's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's just people don't realize the amount of work that it takes to create these things, and it's a lot of work, and it's hard work, but it's a lot of fun at the same time, and can be grueling also, because when you're working on long hours on set filming, and let's say a 21-hour shoot, and trying to get a handful of effects in these shots, it's really hard. But it pays off. It does.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I really enjoyed that bathtub scene, and just because it was cool looking. It looked real.
Thank you. I mean, that film I shot. I was the camera operator, director, producer, and special effects artist. I was a one-man crew for that.
So, this will be my second to the last question. Where do you see your filmmaking going in the future? Do you have any plans to do any other genres, or are you going to keep striving to outdo yourself in the horror genre?
No, I mean, I would definitely like to stick in the horror genre, but my one dream that I want to hopefully will come true is there's a Western I would like to do.
Oh, okay.
And it's titled Dog Day Sunrise, and it's a very epic story. And that's a movie I'm hoping that I can get investors interested in, because that would definitely be a multi-million-dollar film.
All right, wow.
Yeah. Sorry. And it's my love letter. It would be my love letter to spaghetti westerns of Sergio Leone, Sergio Corbucci, and all that. Okay,
great. And are there any questions you wish I would have asked you that you'd like to talk about? Something that you'd like to tell my viewers about that I haven't touched on?
I mean, to me, cinema, ever since I was little, to me, cinema was always magic. And you can ask anyone that knows me. The art of film is a passion for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I've given up many things in my life because of my passion for filmmaking. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't taken off anywhere. Hopefully I will one day. Hopefully I'll make this Western, which I would love to do. That's my dream project. But I've never had the great opportunity to own a big house like many other people get to accomplish in life or whatever. It's because I rather put my money on making films. How long can I do this for? Not very long. I mean, I'm not getting younger, and I would love to do this for the rest of my life. But it's a very expensive thing to do, to create and put your heart into. And people don't realize that it's a lot of work. And to me, it's just pure passion.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I really don't want to give up. I mean, where I live, I have wall to wall. I must own close to 2,000 films because I love movies, and it's not just horror movies. I love all genres. I have a passion for horror. I have a passion for comedy, westerns, dramas, surprisingly certain musicals. I love them all. I mean, that's my passion is just cinema. My love for cinema.
That's awesome. And do you have any advice for anybody else that's considering trying their hand at making films? Anything you would?
Yes, do a lot of research before you go out there and spend money and make your free. I mean, my biggest advice is if you have a great idea, put it on paper, write a script, and then go about your resources, what you can afford and what you can get for nothing or close to nothing. Just don't go out there blinded, like I did with my very first feature film, where then I didn't have enough funds to finish it. you know, which was a total waste. And unfortunately, I feel bad and guilty because all the other, my friends that worked on it with me never got to see it. Neither have I. But it's something that just, you know, sat in the cans and just never saw the light of day. But my advice is do a lot of research. If it's something you really want to do, go for it. Don't let fear stop you. Because that's the thing is people always let fear stop them.
Right.
And all they do is talk. Don't talk. I mean, talk, but do it.
Right. Right. And if as long as it's enjoyable for you, that's the whole goal, right? In the end,
Right.
it's
Right. And you got to love what you're doing. Don't do it because you're doing it for girls or whatever. Do it because you love doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. All right. Well, it's been really fun talking to you. And for my viewers, Am I Evil is available on Amazon. You
Yeah.
said,
Yeah, and the festival.
and the festival, and how about Dark Side of the Moon? How can people get
Right now, yeah, there's no distribution as of yet. It will soon. But right now, I'm like heavily at work with the Monster Mash.
Okay.
But once things start to wind down, I will have you know, Dark Side of the Moon available soon on Blu-ray and DVD. But I would say keep your eyes and ears open for a 4K restoration of Am I Evil, which is a very personal film for me. I have The Monster Mash is probably my best film yet. Which I collaborated. I want to give a shout out to my co-producer and also director of the third story of the anthology, Kevin Lasani, and co-producer Michael Gentile, who also stars in Whispering Hollow Road, who plays Andrew Lakewood and plays Dr. Freudstein, which is the mad scientist who introduces the three films and ties it in with the wraparound story. And he also plays the drug lord. Oops, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, plays the drug lord in the wheelchair that we were talking about for Homebound Horror, which is the third story, which is directed by Kevin Lasani, and both of them are my co-producers on this film.
Okay.
But keep your eyes and ears open for a 4K restoration of Am I Evil, which is my personal film. I have a lot of fond memories of that film.
And I'm also going to add your website, Dark Vision.
Darkvisionfilms.com.
I'm going to add that to the details section of the YouTube video, so people can check that out as well, in case they forget any of this and they want to check it out. Thanks again, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you check out his movies. I had fun watching them, and I had a lot of fun talking to you today.
So did I. Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.